Hello, my name is Elizabeth Boss, and this is a research proposal about a community read aloud program at a rural school. In this presentation, we will cover the problem, some background research, an action plan and ethical consideration, student achievement, and lastly, I will reflect on this research proposal. Now, first thing I want to do is jump in with some facts about students in rural schools. Students in rural schools have lower reading levels, higher rates of poverty, and have less access to literature. As a teacher in a very rural school in a rural county, I can personally attest to all of these facts. What we have on this slide are some ACAP reading scores. For those of you that are outside of the state of Alabama, ACAP is the state of Alabama's standardized testing system. We have here some ELA, which would be reading scores from a few years ago. So as you can see, the state of Alabama as a whole had reading proficiency of 47.3%. Then let's jump to Baldwin County. Baldwin County is a more suburban area in the state of Alabama, and it is close to the neighboring county where this research will be conducted, which is Monroe County. So Baldwin County had a reading proficiency of 56.8%, which is considerably higher than the state average. Now, Clark County, which is a rural county neighboring Monroe County, again where this research will be conducted, had a proficiency of 34%. Mobile County, which is another suburban county, had reading proficiency scores of 41.1%. And lastly, Monroe County, which is where I live and teach, had reading proficiency of 31.3%, which is considerably lower than the state proficiency. So the purpose of this study is to evaluate how implementing a community reading program will impact reading achievement, specifically in a rural school. My hypothesis is that implementing a community read aloud program will increase early exposure to literacy, thus improving student reading achievement. Now, let's jump into what the research says. This is specifically research about students in rural areas. First, students in rural areas have lower reading levels because of factors such as lower education levels among parents and a lack of access to early education. I know that I can personally attest to this in the school that I teach at, is that many of our parents, the highest level of education that they have is a high school diploma, and we do not have any early childhood centers within 30 minutes of us. And I know that my school is not the only area in the United States that faces this problem. Research also shows that children are less likely to be read or spoken to regularly, or to have access to books, literacy-rich environments, high-quality early care, or pre-K programs. Again, I can personally attest to all of these situations where I live and teach. Lastly, students in rural areas have lower reading achievement than those in urban and suburban areas. So this is what the research shows about students in rural areas. Let's see what the research says about reading aloud to children. Okay, read alouds. Interactive read alouds help build a child's knowledge of the world around them and models reading skills and strategies. So, not only does reading aloud to a child teach the child about the world around them, but it also models what a good reader looks like. Being read aloud to increases vocabulary, which is desperately needed for literacy development. As a teacher in a rural area, I see that our students struggle greatly with vocabulary simply because they don't have the opportunity to be exposed because of where they live. Children that are exposed to literacy before school score higher on kindergarten reading achievement. All right, let's jump right into my action plan, the sampling method. The way that our sample will be made is it will be a random sample, and it will include half of the participants in the Community Read Aloud program. Okay, and the participants in this study will be 4 years old. The reason that I'm choosing to select half of the participants is because we have such a small area. I felt like choosing half of the students would be a good number. Okay, instrumentation. The random sample of children will participate in the Community Read Aloud program for a year. And this study will continue a total of 2 years, so the year in the Community Read Aloud program, and then also when they enter into kindergarten. At the beginning, middle, and end of kindergarten, they will take the Ames-Webb Early Literacy Screener. The results from this screener will be compared to another sample of randomly selected students that did not participate in the Community Read Aloud program. Collaborative efforts. The entire basis of this Community Read Aloud program is that it's a collaboration among members of the community. So our goal in this program is to invite members of the Packers Bend community to read to the children at the program. We also want this to be open to parents to bring their children in. Now, the procedures for this research. The first step is to gain necessary approval to conduct the research. And then upon approval, the program will be advertised and begin at the start of a new school year. And as I mentioned a moment ago, this program will run through an entire school year, so while the child is 4 years old, and then data will be collected when they enter kindergarten. So as a total, it will last 2 years. Validity. The Ames-Webb Early Literacy Screener is a program that is used by many districts and schools around the country to shape and guide instruction. So this is a very valid way to collect data. Ethical considerations. Participants in this study will be assigned random numbers to protect their identity. Only myself, as the director, will have access to how the students are paired to their assigned number. Now, although we do not see any harm happening to students that participate in this study, we will have parents sign a consent since this study involves minors. Student achievement. Research shows that children with early literacy exposure will show higher reading achievement in kindergarten. Research also shows that students in rural areas have lower reading achievement. So our hopes for this study is that students that participate in the Community Read Aloud program will have the opportunity for early literacy exposure, thus increasing their reading achievement. Last but not least is a reflection and next steps. One limitation of this experiment design that I did not account for is the possibility that children will receive varying amounts of literacy exposure outside of the Community Read Aloud program. I also did not set a frequency for which the read alouds will occur. Once these things are adjusted, I would be able to submit this for approval. So once again, thank you for listening to my research approval, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.